It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I'm Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host Smitty. Go follow us on all over social medias at Around the 412. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We're everywhere, so go check us out. Also, go check us out over on YouTube if you're not already. Trying to grow that thing up. Leave a like on the videos. Leave us some comments. Ask them some questions in the comments about some Pittsburgh sports. We'll get them to them on every single show. And also hit that subscribe button. We want to keep growing this thing. I can't emphasize that enough. Also, if you're not and you listen to the show instead of watching it, follow us wherever you find your podcast, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, every single place you find your podcast, go follow us there. We've got a bunch of links in our description right now, and I'm going to keep it brief, but I just want to talk about the top link that we have in our description, and that's year 7 of Rocking Around the 412. Over $600 this year raised already. We're over $32,000 in the lifetime of this mission, providing Christmas for children around the local 724 and 412 area codes. We definitely want to keep growing this. We're going to be running it until December, like mid-December. Second week is typically when we cut it off. So if you can, please share. If you donate, awesome, down below. We're also going to be having some prizes as we do every year for some of the lucky winners. We raffle some different Pittsburgh memorabilia off, some tickets off. It's a good time, but we need all of your help, and we've continued to have that help over the years, so we want to continue to try to grow that thing. Year 7, Rock Around the 412, top link in the description. It's going to be there every single week up until Christmas time.
There we go. Now that we got that business out of the way, this is the Around the 412 Steelers show, well into camp at this point, and I'm fired up because Marcus Golden is back. I think this is low-key a really good addition for this team. Obviously spent last season here. They bring him back on another one-year deal. Had 4 sacks last year, has 51 in his career. Just really good depth to the position. We knew that they would bring in a body at the very least because he lost David Perales to what clearly was a very significant knee injury. They waived/injured him as the corresponding move to bringing Marcus Golden back. And they also lost Tyron Johnson, another edge player. So really it was just Jeremiah Moon left behind Watt, Highsmith, and Herbig. Now you bring back Marcus Golden from last year. Really good player, in my opinion. I think he wins in a different way. His ability to turn speed to power. He's not necessarily the most finesse pass rusher, and he's really good against the run. But man, I think it's going to be basically the same as last year now, except Herbig and Golden flip. I think Herbig's edge 3 and Golden's edge 4.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, I got to say, poor Jeremiah Moon with this happening, because that basically just means, sorry, you're not going to be on the 53-man roster. But I got to say,
okay, there's one.
Well, do you think they keep more than 4?
So what it's going to have to be is they decide to keep one last inside linebacker. Like, he's going to be competing with like Mark Robinson and maybe Tyler Medikevich, like maybe 1 spot between, or 2 spots between those 3, something like that. But it's going to have to be because they keep one less body there, because of like special teams will give him the ability to, because Golden doesn't play special teams. Are they going to want Herbig to play a lot of special teams if he's the main backup?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point, but I will say, looking at last year's opening 53-man roster, they did have just 4 of each linebackers. So really,
that's very possible.
You'd be looking at someone out of the secondary coming out too, if that's going to be the case. But with the edge room as it is right now, with the addition of Marcus Golden, I feel really good about it. I feel really good about Herbig being your edge 3, and this makes me very confident moving into the season. Not that I wasn't confident moving into the season, but all it takes is one guy to go down in that edge room, and suddenly you don't feel as good about that position, especially with your depth. And I'm not saying that I want Marcus Golden to be having extensive time on the field because someone's out, but if that were to happen, I definitely think this sets up the Steelers better to be more prepared for that unfortunate outcome if it does happen. And I think that this ups your floor of your edge room as well. I definitely think that it's a repeat of last year, and that's something that's a good thing. I'm completely fine with having the same edge that they did last year.
It's a repeat of last year, but hopefully Watt stays healthy and Herbig takes the jump that you would think that he would in year 2. So the argument's certainly there that it should be better this year than it was last year. And you just feel good about, obviously, you don't want anybody to get hurt, but you feel like there's the depth there. Like Golden, when TJ was out at the end of last year, I thought he was really good. And this year, like I said, I think Herbig would be the guy first and foremost to kind of step into that spot. I had the opportunity, thanks to my guy, Alan Saunders, my co-host, Steelers Afternoon Drive, Steelers Now, to be out at training camp for a couple days last weekend. And man, what an eye-opening experience that was for me, just getting to see what that side of the business is like. I already had a ton of respect knowing like what Alan's grind specifically was like, or feel like I had a pretty good idea of what that grind was like. But man, like you have to be really dedicated to the craft. Your family has to be dedicated to that too, with how much time you spend away from them during the season. So I just had a new appreciation, I feel like, for the people that cover the team and the fan base, dude. Like we got a anonymous tip from somebody on Twitter on Saturday night that somebody was camping out already for practice the next day. So when we were leaving Sharky's, which is like the real popular bar out there, we were like, let's just swing by and see if anybody's out there. Yep. There was a person pulled off to the side already getting ready for training camp practice on Sunday morning. Insane. I love Steelers fans so much. They're awesome. Some like random people like shouting my name and stuff like that when we're like trying to get the players to come over and talk to us for like early media availability, lining up for autographs, like rushing to get lined up for autographs as well. I asked this one dude, I was like, hey, whose autograph are you trying to get? I'll see if I can get him over here to help you out. And they were like, oh, I want Mike Tomlin's. I was like, all right, you might be on your own. But yeah, no, it was a great experience for me in those 2 days. I feel like, I don't know that I learned necessarily anything new about the team, but I certainly had guys that I thought stood out in massive ways and have continued to do so. If he can stay healthy, man, I know we were a little bit down on the trade. Dante Jackson has been a player in training camp so far, easily one of their best players, in my opinion. Like the dude, he doesn't look like he's like sapped of his athleticism, despite the injuries that have taken place. I think they're in good hands, opposite of Joey Porter Jr., at least in terms of the start. Now, you could argue, like, do they have enough depth with Darius Rush, Corey Trice, Anthony Averett behind them? I'm a little skeptical about that based off what I've seen. Like, just Corey Trice hasn't been able to do much, whether it's just restrictions or what's going on there, but hopefully he continues to ramp up and we get a better look at him. Deshaun Elliott's been awesome. Him and Pat Freiermuth has been like the go-to battle in training camp so far. They're getting each other at times. It's just been an awesome back and forth, but Deshaun Elliott's been great, making a ton of plays in the backfield, using 3 safety sets, which has been super intriguing for me to see. Just the defense as a whole, very early in camp, very clearly stood out in a big way. The offense has kind of pushed back, though. I think, for a young offensive line, not just in terms of standing up for their quarterback, if you are also a watcher of the Pirates podcast, I brought up E-Rob for a very different reason on that podcast, but I got to bring him up here too, because he started a little bit of a brawl at training camp a couple days ago with a late push. I saw the video. He just kind of like bumped into Justin Fields, but they don't want you touching the quarterbacks at all. So they still took offense to that, and I get it. Rookies Troy Fautanu and Mason McCormick take an exception to it. Starts a little bit of a scuffle. Tomlin says outwardly that he's not a fan of that. He loves it. This is exactly what he wanted. Like he wore his black Air Force Ones. What does he mean he doesn't like it? This is how he sets it up, though. Like he designs practice in this way to get this out of these players. Like the offense having a great day because of positions that the coaches put them in strategically so that the defense would respond in this way. They'd be pissed off the following day and this would happen. It's exactly what did. Backs on backers, ton of fun. Obviously, always love that. Jalen Warren doing against Patrick Queen, Najee Harris against Landon Roberts. The Van Jeffersons look really good. Calvin Austin continues. I feel like the first couple of days of training camp were what they were. They weren't what he did in the spring, but he looks like that foot is 100%. I don't think that it was last year. Now going back and looking at how he looks this year. So I'm excited about that. And then I feel like we got to talk about the quarterbacks too. I mean, Justin Fields has been very up and down, which is like exactly what you would expect. Like that's not surprising anybody that I'm saying that the highs have been super high and the lows have been low. Just 2 interceptions so far through camp, but it just seems like the processing at times is behind. When he misses high. which is not what you want. If you want to miss, just throw it into the ground. Obviously, if you're throwing it high, you're giving somebody else a chance to make a play on the ball. But I wasn't there for this, just going based off conversations with Alan. His day Wednesday was as good as he's had, like no incompletions at all in practice in any setting. So he was fantastic. And I feel like we know what we're getting, but the design quarterback runs, which I think have to be part of this offense regardless.
Mm-hmm.
They're using a fullback a ton too. Like there's figuring out what Arthur Smith's offense wants to do. A lot of pistol offense as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how much that translates over. But very different looking offense than what we saw under Matt Canada, which would be music to everybody's ears, obviously. And how quickly are we going to see Russ in full capacity? They're being very cautious with this, which he's not wearing a sleeve on his calf. I've watched him after practice, and he's throwing with guys, moving around fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what's going on there. It's very stupid that they had him pushing a sled, and that's how he got hurt to begin with. But I'm not like super worried about where we're at right now. It's just giving Justin, more reps. But Russ to me is fine. Like I don't know why he's not been in full capacity.
Yeah, and that brings me back to last week's conversation too. And I know as far-fetched as it may seem, like, is there a possibility the Steelers are holding him out to give Justin Fields, at least for right now, the most reps with the ones that he can to see if
just like a super
indeed
extended look.
Because I know it's a quarterback battle, but I still think, as much as this is the wrong answer, and maybe I'm completely wrong, I still think the Steelers are looking at this going into the season, week 1. Russell Wilson is their starting quarterback. He's basically the incumbent that wasn't an incumbent because he wasn't here last year. But I think that maybe that is a case of giving him an extended look with the ones and holding him out. And then maybe in like a week or two, that's when things really heat up with the quarterback battle. If you want to call it that, if that is indeed what it is. I know Alan said it is definitely a quarterback battle. And I agree, it should be a quarterback battle. Neither of these guys, you don't have loyalty to any of them. And I think that it should be something that is fought over and won in training camp, in the preseason, the whole process of it. So it is interesting that they are holding him out. It's interesting seeing what decisions are being made with this whole quarterback thing. But I do think that it is valuable for Justin Fields having this opportunity, being basically the number one guy for the first full week of camp. I think that it's a good opportunity for him to showcase, and maybe he hasn't done as well as he would have liked to have hoped, but I think in many eyes he's done better than some people would have hoped, because I feel like Justin Fields, the name, that's attractive. Justin Fields, the player coming to the Steelers based off his first 3 seasons in the NFL, low expectations were to be had, and I definitely had them. I had a lot of high hopes, but I didn't think that my expectations were high at all with him. So if he's able to look good at times in camp and make something interesting out of this quarterback battle, I think all credit to him. I don't think that him performing well should be looked at as an expectation, because that's really yet to be seen in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm just excited for what this could look like once they're both in full capacity, and see how the reps are divvied up and how each of them are looking. I think, Justin's doing what I expected, and I don't know if he's doing the most that he could right now to put himself firmly in this competition, but he certainly, to me, has looked the part of what I expected we were getting in him. Which I think is, he looks comfortable, more and more comfortable with each passing day within this offense, which is, when people mentioned the fit for the Steelers, it was because of Arthur Smith's offense. Again, I think you're going to see a lot of QB designed runs. I think they want to, get him out of the pocket and move the pocket and do these different things with him, and you take advantage of his athleticism. A lot of option stuff as well, like a lot of read options that they were doing in 7 shots. So yeah, I'm excited, but I'll be more excited once, Russ is full go and we get both these guys at full capacity and see what that looks like. The other guy I want to really highlight is Najee Harris, because he looks like, I don't know if you've seen clips of him, but just like physically, the way that he looks in better shape. And not to say he was in bad shape before, but you can tell that he's just a leaner back. But also just the way he's taken charge of running back drills. I mean, he's definitely taken on that leadership role within that room. Doesn't go about it the same way. He doesn't care to talk to the media, and that's fine. Whatever. That's not really his thing. But there's definitely like a reserved, quiet leadership that he's taken on there. And, even at times, I don't know if the right word is getting in guys' faces about it, but like going through individual drills, he's obviously the first guy to go in line. After he would finish a drill, he would almost turn into a coach and be like, finish 100%, go whole way through, finish the rep. And it was just cool to see him kind of in that capacity, especially because we're talking about a guy like, what should his commitment level be to this team? Like, sure, in 2024, but he's likely not going to be here beyond that. Like, technically right now, he could not be doing anything. I wouldn't blame him right now if he was doing absolutely nothing in training camp. Not only is he participating, but again, he's been like a pseudo coach for them as well too. And I don't know, between him, Warren, what this offense has looked like early, just the schematics of it. Obviously, we need to see it put to practice, but I really feel like his inclusion and the way that he looks right now carrying over, it could be a game changer. What's going on, everybody? Smitty from Around the 412, and I just want to take a quick second to give a shout out to our folks at Game Changers. Their logo on the screen right now, right above my microphone. Over 2,000 different designs in their catalog. Luxury heavyweight material. I am wearing one of their shirts right now. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Head over to gamechanger.la or pick6.la to pick up some shirts. And guess what? Use code AT412. Save yourself $10 on your order every single time. Again, gamechanger.la or pick6.la. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Check them out. I'm really excited about Najee and Warren both within this Arthur Smith offense.
I am too. And I think that when it comes to Najee specifically, touching on what you were just speaking about, I mean, obviously none of us are going to know what is going on inside the head of Najee Harris. But if this shows me anything about him as a player and as a teammate, it shows me that he is a great teammate because of his ability to be able to, knowing what he's going through, and this is his last year on his deal, probably not going to be back, and he has every single right to be bitter and not even be showing up to practice and have every single right to not really contribute at all outside of showing up for the season. But he doesn't do that. And like you said, being like a coach during individual drills, that's something that not a lot of players, knowing that they're not going to be being brought back and purposefully not being brought back. Like the Steelers made that clear. They did not pick up the 5th-year option. I think that speaks volumes to the teammate that Najee Harris is. It just reiterates something that we have said. When you look at the leaders of this offense, Najee Harris is one of those leaders on offense. And I know a lot of that contributes to the offense just being a lot of newer, younger guys, and he being one of the vets on this offense. But still, I think that it speaks volumes to the type of player he is, to the character that he is. I mean, we all know that Najee Harris is a good person. You look at the stuff that he does outside of football, he's a great guy, but showing that also on the field in these moments, I mean, I have a lot of respect for him being able to do that, because I don't think that I would take it with such grace like he has been. So I agree with you 100% on that. It's great for him to be that way. I'm excited for these running backs as well in the offense. I mean, that's the focal point that everybody's talking about right now, that we've talked about all offseason. It's the run game with this Arthur Smith offense. What's that going to be like? I'm curious. I know you're only there a couple days, but based off of what you saw when you were there and what we've seen over, because camp was only 1 day in when we last spoke. So what we've seen over this past week, how is the running back load being divvied up? Or did you notice that like someone was getting more touches than another, or was it more 50-50 between Najee and Jalen, or how were they working it?
I mean, Najee isn't doing a ton of that stuff in this set. So
Okay.
like he's here, he's going through individual stuff, but like the team run periods, I'd say it's been more, and actually not even a ton of Jalen Warren either, to be honest with you. It's a
Oh,
lot
really?
because they're trying to figure out between, Aaron Shampklin's getting a decent amount of run, LaMichael P. Ryan, like guys on the roster, and Cordell Patterson's hurt. Like he's working his way back.
Yeah.
So it's really been guys further down in the depth chart, seeing if there is a guy that maybe pops that could be an RB4 and contribute in that way. Yeah, I mean, I know I've seen some conversation. I really do think like this is going to be as close to 50-50 as possible, though. Like I'm not necessarily going based off anything I've seen with saying that. I just think in terms of what this offense demands of its running backs, how much emphasis is going to be put on them. I just like to keep both the guys fresh, just to get the most out of them on a per snap basis. Like I think it really is going to be very close to 50-50, if not 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that we've been getting towards that trend going forward.
Yeah.
What's that?
I do want to say too, and that's not to say game by game it will be that way. I just think by the end of the year you're going to look like there are going to be games where Najee more effective than Jalen. They identify that, and I think they got pretty good at doing that last year.
I mean, sometimes you ride the hot hand during in individual games.
Yeah, I'm saying over the course of the season, I think it will be pretty close in terms of touches.
Yeah, and I think that's something we've been trending for over the last couple seasons, watching these guys too. And it gets to this ultimate point where that's going to be the case. Something else I wanted to ask, and pertaining to Arthur Smith, I don't know if you noticed this. I don't know if anybody has talked about it at all. It's more just curiosity on my part. Did you notice if Arthur Smith is more hands-on with the offense?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love him. I love Arthur Smith. I feel like he should have been here for years. Al and I just had a conversation about him today, actually, on Steelers Afternoon Drive, just how it feels like he's just already super ingrained. He already has like a little bit of a weird cult following, right? Just because of the mustache thing that everybody kind of draws to. But just like the personality and the attitude and the way he carries himself, it just feels very Pittsburgh-like. And maybe part of that is learning under Mike Vrabel, who was a Pittsburgh guy as well, like very Pittsburgh-like. So I think part of that is probably indoctrinated in him. But yeah, like he's awesome. And I think he's super detailed. I think that players have a more clear messaging in terms of why they're doing things within the offense as opposed to last year. Like last year, I think that there was not just obviously a lack of success, the results, but even the process. Guys were doing things without knowing why they were doing them. And I don't think that that's going to be the case this year. It's so detail oriented. He's got guys, that are being held accountable for their mistakes. I'm sure you've seen, like if the offensive linemen have a bad snap, false start, something, take a lap, they run. Same thing for running backs that put the ball on the ground. The defense has started to carry over that as well. That was his original idea. Zach Frazier said he wasn't sure like if it was going to be enforced or not, but the players have themselves decided to enforce it. So they've been doing it and going along with it. And you're seeing that get cleaned up on a daily basis. Like each passing day, it seems like there's been less and less miscues because of this. So yeah, I feel like the addition of Arthur Smith, again, we haven't seen them play a game. I still expect them to be, a league average-ish offense. I'm not saying they're going to set the world on fire this year, but it's refreshing that there is a guy that understands how to operate an NFL offense, operating the NFL offense.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. And the reason that I asked that question, because I was thinking about the difference that Arthur Smith could bring than what we saw with Matt Canada the last couple seasons, because now this is from the outside looking in, I will say. But to me, when I view Matt Canada and I view him, especially in a training camp setting, I view him as more of, sure, he is the schematics of the offense, like the types of plays they're going to be running and the schemes are going to come from him. But at the same time, I felt like offensive coaching, that comes from the position coaches under Matt Canada. I didn't think that Matt Canada was necessarily hands-on with the players and the actual like team drills and correcting people or like you mentioned, like teaching players why they're doing certain things. But I feel like I get a completely different vibe from Arthur Smith. And this is like, I haven't been to practice, but just what I feel about him felt like he's someone that is definitely more hands-on with the offense, which is something that I think that this franchise desperately needed because of the offensive drought that not just they had under Matt Canada, but going back to Randy Fichtner, realistically, all the way back to 2019, whenever Ben tore his elbow and they had to roll with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph for a season. The last better part of 5-6 years, we have been wanting more offense out of this team. We haven't gotten it. And I think that it takes someone like Arthur Smith to have your team fully buy into you by the, not just what your offense does on the field, but also just by the coach and the type of coach you are, being more hands-on with that sort of thing. I think your players buy into that way more than what they have in the past before, with different coordinators.
Yeah, I think there's more structure. I think there's more buy-in. I think there's more discipline. I just think that, like you said, I think that was a good way of putting it, is he's more hands-on than what we've seen in the past at the top. So I'm excited about it. Zach Azzanni too, man. Getting to see him coach up close and personal too. He's a fiery dude, brings the energy for sure. You can hear him chirping out there. Denzel Martin is kind of like the chirper on the defensive side. When all this is like 7 shots, if you win 7 shots, you get to eat a better dinner. That's like the prize for whatever side wins. So like they're going back and forth the entire time talking about it. And Denzel Martin's that guy for the defense. If I had to pick somebody for the offense, it would probably be Zach Azzanni, just because of the personality that he brings. Very unique coaching style. Like, have you seen any like the weird drills that they got them doing with like the folding chairs and stuff? Like, yeah, there's just some different things that they do. I don't even know how to describe some of them, dude. Like some weird stop-start drills that they do with the receivers. Yeah, I mean, he's a different cat for sure. He has a different way of getting his message across. And the big thing to watch, right, is going to be him and George, to see how they go. I know that there was like a exchange that I think personally, in talking with Alan, he agrees got blown too much out of proportion. It lasted all of like 5 seconds, the exchange between them, and then they were good. George was asked about it the following day when I was there, and just said it's not any coaching style that he's not used to. Like Kirby Smart, very similar. So maybe we could dive into that, because I actually got to be a part of some media scrums the 2 days that I was there, which was very interesting. I actually made it onto one of the Steelers YouTube videos during their media availabilities, and I put up the tweet and I was like, record scratch, freeze frame. Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got in this situation. Kyle Allen was talking about coming to the Steelers, and what drew him here, despite knowing that the reps might not be there for him. Although this camp, he's been able to operate as QB2 so far for a lot of camp. But he knows guys that have been in Arthur Smith's offense, knows it pretty well. Him and Pat have developed a great relationship. So as part of that, Patrick Queen talking about training camp, the experience that he's had, how quickly people have bought into him as a player in person, was pretty awesome as well. Talked to Roman Wilson. Oh, Roman Wilson's hurt. We got to bring that up as well, but we'll get there in a second. My favorite part of the weekend, the Marvin Leal comes over while Roman Wilson is talking and just takes Chris Carter's mic and asks him who is the better player between himself and George Pickens. And one of the Steelers PR people who was like there with Roman, like they always have like a PR person by whoever's talking, just to make sure get them in and out of the scrum, make sure nothing outlandish is asked, like hurried up and turned their head like they didn't know who asked it because they weren't paying attention. And then they realized it was, someone on the team, and they were like, oh, you're stupid. So it was a funny moment of the weekend with the Marvin Leal asking Roman Wilson a question like that. Got to talk to both rookie offensive linemen, Zach Frazier and Troy Fautanu. They talked about, having to run the laps if they mess up, and how much emphasis they're putting on not doing so because they don't want to run. I feel that. 100% agree. I'm on board with not wanting to run either. So I hear that. Troy Fautanu's getting more run with the ones as the days passed too. He had to step in. Broderick Jones got hurt on the second play of 7 shots on Sunday. So Troy Fautanu had to step in as the right tackle there. Very first rep, he's doing against TJ Watt, stuns TJ, like blows him off the ball. Really good hand placement and footwork. Great rep from Fautanu. And I was like, wow. I know that they weren't wearing pads at that point, but I was like, that's a really good rep for a rookie against that guy. Trying to think of anybody else that I talked. Did I talk to anybody else? I talked to Pat, obviously, but who cares? The thing that he did say.
What, around the 412? What are we doing? That was a low moment, Pat. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that can't happen. I mean, it can't. I've discussed it with him. Hopefully we're past it, but man, I mean, my dad was trying to give him grace as well. He was like, maybe he didn't realize like the name of the podcast was the area code. I was like, what else would it be? Like, why would we just have the number 412 as the name of the podcast if we weren't talking about the area code? Like, there's no excuse to be had there. I appreciate Pat thinking to shout us out in that moment, but man, come on.
He might as well have said the podcast.
He should have. That would have been very funny. But the one thing that he did say that I feel like I should talk about on here was about Peyton Wilson, because Peyton Wilson punched the ball out on him. The whistle had already blown, but like they continued doing the play, so still gets a forced fumble, if you will, on Pat. And he talked about Peyton Wilson. He was like, that dude is going to be so good. Like, he moves different and moves so easy. He just looks different. He shouldn't be that big and be able to move that way. I'm excited about Peyton Wilson. I don't know how much we see of him in year one, but like 2025 and beyond, man, I really do think that they got a player in Peyton Wilson. He was my number one linebacker. I thought they got a player in him when they drafted him, but like watching him now in this setting, getting to see up close how he moves, it is like, there's no better way to put it than just like, it's different than somebody that size.
Yeah. I mean, the athleticism at the position is super high. You don't see a lot of middle linebackers with like that type of speed, especially side to side, and being able to drop into coverage like he can. I agree with you. He might not see the field a ton this year, especially depending on what the future of a guy like Cole Holcomb is this upcoming season. And when you still have Patrick Queen and Landon Roberts on the roster.
I don't think Cole Holcomb's at camp right now. Like, I don't know where he is. I didn't see him. Alan still hasn't seen him. I don't know what's going on with him.
That's interesting. But yeah, moving forward, like you could see could you see a world where, say, a Landon Roberts doesn't stick around? That would be unfortunate. But like going into next season, like Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson as your two linebackers in the middle, that is a very athletic duo at that position.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it'd be an interesting fit. I hope they bring E-Rob back. He's doing it the last year of his deal.
Me too.
But like, you play three linebackers enough, especially with those different skill sets, where I think there's a place for all three of them to still be here in 2025. I think E-Rob should finish his career in Pittsburgh, to be honest. Like, bias aside, I don't like how many people bought into E-Rob last year, like didn't know what we were getting on the surface, and then watched him exceed expectations, certainly with what he brought in coverage, but be everything that we thought he was going to be as a thumper. I feel like a ton of people, like when we had him on the pod, replied to us about that, and we're like, this dude quickly became one of my favorite Steelers.
Well, yeah, especially losing Cole Holcomb and losing Quan Alexander. Yeah. He had to step up. He was the anchor, the good type of anchor for for that defense in the middle. And he had to be, because there was really nobody behind him that was going to be stepping up for like that. He was awesome. I agree with you. I hope he's back in a Steeler uniform next season. I'm excited to see what he can do this season. I'm excited for the linebackers. Like, I feel like it's been a while since I can actually say that I'm excited for the middle linebackers.
This is I'll bring this up on the show just because of the timing of it. It's hilarious. He literally just texted me about something. I texted him before we started recording the Pirates show, but it's just funny that he could have replied at any time or even tomorrow, because he normally doesn't respond late at night. But E-Rob just texted me back about something I sent him. He's signing a jersey for the Man Cave, and I sent him one of our hats, and he just texted me back about it. So shout out to E. Don't know if he's ever watched this podcast, but if you do, what's going on, Landon? Yeah, I just feel like he's another one of those guys I mentioned with Arthur Smith. I feel like he should have been in Pittsburgh longer than he was. E-Rob just feels like he should have been a Steeler way before he was. And I feel like even though we were robbed of that, hopefully we get to see him finish his career in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I can agree with that, especially, man, starting in New England. Come on. I know you want
Miami's all right. I can deal with Miami.
Miami's fine, but I know you won a couple Super Bowls in New England, but come on, man. Like, you couldn't have chosen a different team to start your career with. I know it's not up to you, but still.
Although, see, if it didn't happen, we wouldn't have had that great conversation about the Tom Brady roast on the podcast.
That's true.
On the afternoon drive. So
that's true. Maybe it was all worth it just because of that.
Yeah. The other thing we didn't touch on that we got to touch on, Roman Wilson injury. the ankle. Has it been put out there exactly what it is? Because I know
ankle sprain,
but high ankle sprain specifically.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Which is very tough.
He's week to
It's
week.
tricky to know. He's week to week, and I saw somebody say they're hopeful that it's just a couple. I'll be very surprised if it's not at least 3. And I understand that that timeline would put him back before the start of the regular season. But the reps that he's losing right now, not just from a physical standpoint, but even once he's physically able to return, with how much time he's losing right now, is he going to be ready to go for the regular season?
I don't know, especially based off what we've been hearing about his performances.
He looked really good when I was there. That's the sad thing.
That's good.
He was really starting to,
That's good.
And
that's
we were
better
just
news.
getting into. I thought he was. I should have brought this up when we were talking about guys that stood out to me and stuff. If I would have had, I'll say 5. I know people normally do 3, but if I do 3, I'm not 100% sure he would make it. He certainly makes my 5 standouts. My 5 standouts from the weekend that I spent at training camp: Peyton Wilson, Deshaun Elliott, Dante Jackson, Roman Wilson. See, 4 was a good number. 4 is a good number. Can I get who was the 5th one? Probably. Probably Van Jefferson looked really good too. And I do like the fact that he's taken after AB now, where he's catching 300 balls off the jugs after practice. Like, it takes forever. If you want to talk to him after practice, you're waiting. You're sitting around for like an hour after practice to talk to Van Jefferson. But I appreciate it from a fan perspective, and hoping that he's able to step into an elevated role. Anyways, Roman Wilson had really started to stack days, and I was excited for him because I feel like when you put the pads on is really where Roman Wilson would shine. So we hadn't got to see him in that setting at all. First day of pads, 7 shots, 6th play, high ankle sprain.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But I mean, in saying that, and this isn't to make light of his injury whatsoever, but like it does open the door for guys like Quez Watkins, Scotty Miller, Des Fitzpatrick, like people that are still fighting for roster spots. They're going to get some more opportunity in camp because of something like this. So
it's been Dez that's been running with the 2, because Roman wasn't with the 1s anyway. So it's been Dez now running with the 2s in his place. Van and Calvin are obviously the locks along with George. I feel like it's kind of everybody else that's competing there. And Roman is obviously going to make the roster, but who's going to be that role? I feel like Scotty Miller is honestly the big winner of that. Like, if Roman Wilson's not able to go at the beginning of the year, I think Scotty Miller comes out of that the big winner, because it was kind of hard for me to find a roster spot for him just because he kind of mirrors so much of what Roman Wilson does and what Calvin Austin do. But without Roman Wilson, I think you're still kind of looking for that guy. So Scotty Miller, familiarity with the offense, he's probably, I hate to use the word winner because we're talking about due to somebody else's injury, but at Roman's expense, it's probably Scotty Miller to me that's the beneficiary.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I just think, like I said, not to make light of an injury, but if you're one of these other guys, that's something that you see as an opportunity, because the last thing that you guys want to do is get cut.
Smitty from around the 412 here, and while I may not have much hair, the hair that I do have will not be cut by anybody besides Keek at Keek's Barbershop. My friend Christian Circle, been with us since day one. Keek's Barbershop, located 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Download the app The Cut, book an appointment with Christian today, or you can do walk-in with Tony or Ashley. But again, Keek's Barbershop, 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Go check them out. Old school vibe in there. Absolutely love it. Cannot recommend them enough. Wouldn't go anywhere else. Maybe I'll see you there. Dude, I was not on. So I switched over to Twitter real quick. Like, I have the tab open and I switched over real quick, and then that started playing. I thought I accidentally hit it. Like, I did it
on purpose.
Good play there. It was nice work.
I got to say, it felt good. I know. I see why you do it now.
Yeah, it felt good coming off the fingertips. Yeah. But yeah, Scotty Miller to me is the big beneficiary there. We'll see, if that continues. Like I said, Des Fitzpatrick's been the one that's getting more run. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to take away from training camp. Not a lot of well, today would have been the first day that they did anything with the new kickoff and kick return stuff. So I haven't gotten to see that take place firsthand. But man, am I curious. Like I got the Hall of Fame game here right to my right. Just kind of going on in the background, taking a peek every once in a while. I saw the beginning of the game where they were doing it. The kicker wasn't even like on the screen. They had a green box outlining where the landing zone was. Very interesting setup, and I'm curious to see how that goes. But like Boswell hasn't been doing a whole lot through training camp. Matthew Wright's been getting most of the kicks. Man, Cam Johnston, though, what an upgrade from Presley Harvin we're talking about.
Yeah.
Here. I mean, he can. I know that Presley could boom him in practice too, but this is just like this is a guy that's been there, done it. We know he can do it in a game. We've seen him do it in that setting, and he booms them. I'm excited for Cam Johnston. Is there anybody else that's?
I have a question for you. I don't know if you saw it or if it's been talked about lately, but in your couple days that you were up there, did you see anything more happening with what they were doing with like nickel? Is it still like rolling with DeMonte KZ, or is it Beanie Bishop? What have they been doing with that?
Never mind. First off, it was so Deshaun Elliott got the first crack, but then it was Beanie Bishop when they weren't in 3 safety looks. It's going to be Beanie Bishop. He's awesome. They have given him matchups in wide receiver DB one-on-ones with George Pickens, and he's come out the victor on that. Like Beanie can play. He should have been drafted. No clue why he was a UDFA. He certainly belongs. He's going to be their starting slot corner while Cam Sutton is out, and will certainly have a role even when Cam Sutton returns after the first 8 weeks. That much I can pretty much guarantee at this point. We saw Josiah Scott get released. He probably saw the writing on the wall, was looking for a better opportunity. Beanie Bishop's the guy. He looks awesome. Honestly, let me go back. I feel like he's got to be on that 5 winners list.
Yeah.
So I might take Van off and put him there. I was putting Van on mainly because I appreciate the work ethic. But from like an on-field practice standpoint, Beanie's been very good and certainly one of the winners of what I saw.
Well, that's good because we were talking about is one of these guys going to emerge as a winner? Because not that you don't want one of your safeties to have to fill that role, but I feel like it was better for your defense if one of these guys did emerge as your nickel coming out of camp. So if he's been looking really good, I just think that helps the secondary and figuring out like personnel, who's going to be doing where. Ultimately, like I said, if it ended up being a safety and you have your best players on the field, that's ultimately the best goal to have. But if Beanie Bishop looks good, especially with like being undrafted and everything, I mean, that's just not only a great story, but I think it just puts the secondary in a good position that he is excelling at this point.
Well, you could see Deshaun Elliott still get snaps there. I mean, I mentioned him and Pat having battles in the slot when Pat would line up there. Like whether Patrick Queen's going to line up against tight ends as well, but Deshaun Elliott certainly could do that job too. They're going to mix and match. The TA is going to be very creative there. He can be creative because of the personnel that he has on the back end and throw different looks at teams. And I'm excited to see how that takes place. But Beanie Bishop's a player. They got a really good one, I think, as a UDFA. He's going to contribute right away. So I'm very excited about him.
What did you think? And I know we already talked about this a while ago, but or at least brought it up. What did you think of the rookie players coming to the defense of Justin Fields in that little like scrum that happened?
You got to love it. And I wonder, I'm not saying it wouldn't have happened in past years, but that's what I mean when I talk about the buy-in of this group. And I think them just understanding it. Nate Herbig, who's not a rookie, but, talked about the situation, said like, you don't touch our quarterback. Like we're trying to set that mindset and make sure that everybody understands that that's the mindset that we have. That's who we want to be. McCormick and Fautanu being the 2 guys as rookies to step up and do that. I just think speaks volumes in terms of the culture that is being, ingrained in them at St. Vincent College. And that's what this is all about. That's why I say Tomlin can say whatever he wants publicly. Internally, he loves what took place at that. And I think, and then Landon talked about it afterwards and he was like, that's what they got to do. Like they did what they're supposed to. They protected their quarterback. They got in my face about it. I won't touch the quarterback again. So, I think that these things are necessary. As long as you can come out on the other side of this without injuries, it's a good thing that they took place in the setting.
Yeah. Like you said, Tomlin loves it. So
Loves it.
I thought it was a good thing that those two
Now,
were the ones that stepped up.
Joey Porter Jr. threw a punch in there. I don't know who
Yeah.
he was swinging at, or I don't know if he connected with anything or if he just hit air the entire way through the motion. That is the part that you don't want happening.
Mm-mm.
But
Mm-mm.
yeah.
But on the flip side of that, with McCormick and Faltano, I think that speaks to, like you said, they're bought into the offense. They're bought into what they're growing at St. Vincent, but also just the mentality of those players, like two rookies that are fresh to the NFL, but they don't care. They're going to stick up for their quarterback. And I love that they have the mentality that it doesn't matter if a veteran is the one that we're coming after. We're going to stand our ground. We're going to take our place, and we're going to defend what's ours. And I really appreciate that. I think that speaks to volumes to what the culture is that they're growing offensively. And I'm happy for it, because to be completely honest, something happens to Kenny, I don't know that anybody would be doing anything. Like last year, like I don't feel like the same thing would have happened under that regime with that quarterback. I just feel like it's totally different this season.
It is. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's fights that happen all the time at camp. But I mean, the reason for this one, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what the answer is there. I just know that for sure it took place here because of the identity that this specific team wants to have. So if it's different from last year, great. It certainly needs to be heading in this direction. So I thought, again, outside of the Joey Porter Jr. throwing a punch, don't think it was anything that anybody didn't want to see take place. So anything else that you're curious about? I don't think I have anything else to take away from.
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it. Everything that I was thinking of, at least that's coming to thought right now. The only thing that I was thinking about just now that I was looking at doesn't really pertain to training camp, but just the Steelers in general. I looked over at their schedule, and we are really, when this comes out, going to be a week away or less than a week away from their first preseason game against
Houston, right?
Yeah,
who's playing right now in this Hall of Fame game. Yeah, so obviously, like with the extra game, they weren't going to play in this one at all. Do you think like Stroud plays a series? At least, like, do you think that they play at all? Stroud, Nico Collins, Diggs.
Well, I guess now the Hall of Fame game, you have 4 preseason games still, right? If you play in that one.
Yeah.
So maybe not, because traditionally that third one in years past, when you did have 4 preseason games, was the one that you saw those guys. I don't know. I'm going to say no. I don't think so, because like, are we? Well, actually, no. I'm going to answer my own question, because we haven't even seen Russell Wilson in camp. I doubt we're going to see Russell Wilson in that game. But I'll say no, because they're playing that 4th. They'll probably keep it more traditional with when you typically see some starters. At least I would think they would, and use that 3rd game of theirs for that. But Steelers wise, if Justin Fields gets to start this game because Russell Wilson's not playing at all, it's interesting to me for the Steelers situation, because normally you know that your quarterback 2 is going to be playing significant snaps in the preseason. And obviously that's going to be the case with Justin Fields, but it's different this year because Justin Fields is quite literally fighting for a starting spot. And in years past, you don't have that. So not that I'm saying that I don't think Russell Wilson is going to start. Like I said from the beginning, I still think Russell Wilson, as of right now, is their starter in game 1, unless things massively change. But I do think that it is going to be interesting the longer that this prolongs, and it's just giving Justin more opportunity. And if they get to say like they're into next week and Justin is still predominantly playing with the ones, we haven't seen a sign of Russell Wilson yet. I hope that you'd see a sign of him next week, but we'll see. And then he plays good in the preseason games, the tone might start to change around the quarterback position.
It could. Yeah, I'm excited to see. I think the Bills come here for the preseason game, the second one, I believe. I think that would be the game, just because like our Tomlin's relationship with McDermott. Like, I think that we're going to see a lot more of the Bills. They're actually having a joint practice, which like the Steelers don't typically do, but probably are, just because it is the Bills. And the new kickoff role was a big part of that, he said. But Tomlin's relationship with McDermott as well, I think, is a big part of it. I think that'll be the one we probably see, more of the regulars for. But I don't know. We'll see. yeah, if you don't have anything else, I don't have anything else. Once again, be sure to check out everything in the description. That includes our friend Haley Wagner Small Business, Everything Custom Designs, the logo currently above Tyler, and I'll tell you about them right now. Need a custom t-shirt, hoodie, tumbler? Stop what you're doing. Don't go anywhere else. Check out the link in the description. Everything Custom Designs, our friend Haley Wagner Small Business. She can do all that for you. She even does around the 412 merch, t-shirts, hoodies, long sleeve tees, bunch of different stuff. I even got a tumbler from her as well. So go check out the link in the description. Goes directly to her Facebook page. All of her stuff can be found there. Again, Everything Custom Designs. Haley Wagner. She does great work. Can't recommend her enough. Go check it out. Also, our merch, as I said, hoodies, t-shirts, long sleeves, but there's new designs of those as well that weren't out when I made that little promo. So be sure to go check that stuff out. Shorts from our guy, DC4L Customs. Of course, Game Changers or Pick6.LA. Save yourself $10 using code AT412 at checkout. Keats Barbershop, big shout out to him. 401 Burkett Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. And the top link in the description, as Tyler mentioned at the beginning, Year 7, Rocking Around the 412, our yearly Christmas mission. Every single penny donated goes directly to giving kids in the 412 and 7241. 412 and 724 area codes. Man, I almost wanted to run those together. I should actually get that as a necklace. 72412 should be what it says. I like that. Anyways, now I'm thrown off. Every single penny goes directly to kids in those two areas. Also, East Rochester Salvation Army, we've been working with them over the last couple of years. They do their Angel Tree mission. If you guys are familiar with that, in the last couple of years, we've adopted kids off of the Angel Tree to give them the Christmas they deserve as well. Be sure to follow us everywhere at Around the 412, all social media. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here on YouTube. Hit us in the comments with your thoughts on anything that we talked about. Question for a future episode. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, be sure to leave us a 5-star review over there and subscribe over there. Other than that, for Smitty, for Tyler, this has been the Around the 412 Steelers show. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.